Welcome to Revoicing the Future, a Women of NAMM podcast, presented by AKG. Just as one revoices a chord, Revoicing the Future creates a completely new perspective on the invaluable notes that make up the whole. It will uplift women's voices in the music products industry, which have earned their time to be the root of the chord. Once a month, you can catch productive and valuable conversations with women working in manufacturing, retail, the nonprofit sector, music education, touring, and overall women who inspire us. Together, we can help shape the future of our industry, one interval at a time. This podcast is co-produced and edited by Natalie Morrison, Stephanie Lamond, and Julia Olsen. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Revoicing the Future. I'm your host, Natalie Morrison. Hi, Steph.
Hi, Nat. I'm here too.
We have a really exciting episode today.
Yes,
and
we do.
Before we dive into why this is exciting, I just wanted to give you all a heads up that if you are listening to this the week that this episode airs, Women of NAMM is hosting a deep dive on Thursday, June 12th at 11 a.m. Pacific time called Good Vibes Gone Wrong, Toxic Positivity. And it is with special guest Melanie Nichols, organizational psychologist, speaker, and positive disruptor. So be sure to check your email, check the Instagram, Facebook page, register at the link also that will be in the description. And we hope to see you there. And also just remember to follow Women of NAMM on all the socials in general so that you can stay up to date with all the happenings.
There's a lot of good stuff. Always percolating. So
always
good to keep it top of inbox and feed. So today, we are absolutely so stoked. Today we're talking to Lillian Werbin, CEO and co-owner of Elderly Instruments, a renowned stringed instrument retailer based in Lansing, Michigan, and produces events and projects through Sturdy Roots, LLC. Rooted in a folk music upbringing and driven by a passion for culture and community, Lillian is also a dedicated advocate for marginalized musicians and an active force in national and local nonprofits, including Bluegrass Pride and the Rhapsody Project. Just overall, a human we have looked up to for a long time. I know I'll speak for myself, but I know you too. And it was so rad to just get to sit and all like chat and get to know the journey. And it's such a privilege that we get a window into people's lives and just the little things that make people, just part of this.
The prep process too, right?
Yeah.
Really researching ahead of time and coming up with these questions and trying to find questions that people wouldn't necessarily ask them in general.
Yeah, for everybody listening, you don't know how much blood, sweat, and tears we tend to put into prepping for these episodes. Like, we want to give everybody their due, right? Like, these are brilliant humans we're talking to. And I feel like Lillian absolutely was one of these where we were like, oh my God, they do so much. How do we do it right? And so, no, we're not just flying by the seat of our pants for these, although we do deviate, but there's a lot of, but it's so fun, right? Because we get to learn so much. So we get to know what to ask about. Anyway, it's so fun to be doing a podcast together. This is great. Really, really loved this conversation and could have just kept going forever.
Lillian's I don't want to give too much away.
Yeah, just dive in.
You'll be dazzled. So
you will be dazzled. With that, enjoy.
We'll see you next time. Hi, Lillian. Welcome to Revoicing the Future. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be great.
We love to start off the podcast giving our listeners a deep look into your journey. How did you get into music? I know you started at Elderly in 2014, but it's been part of your life, your whole life, essentially. So what brought you from growing up in the store and realizing that you wanted to be a part of it?
Growing up, I was around music all the time, but not necessarily involved in the store. Yes, I would help my mother file papers every once in a while, but there was no understanding of the operations of the business. But I did grow up in professional choirs, and so the idea of being in collaborative music is something that I've always been a part of. And so after college, I was looking for something to do with myself, of course, finding a job, but I really didn't want to work for somebody I didn't believe in, which I think I've said before. And who better to work for than my dad, really? And I asked him if I could come work for him, and he said, "Don't be in the way."
Okay.
I took that pretty seriously and started part-time in the warehouse and just kind of fell in love with the customers and the products, and moved home, started working full time, worked my way through the sales department, phone room department, tried my hand at purchasing and marketing, which turns out I'm not the greatest at.
Know thyself.
And really found myself talking with my dad about ways we could improve and update the business so that it was in the modern era. And through that, I found myself in management, and I have been here ever since.
Amazing. Well, and so with that, you touched on something I really wanted to ask you. I love how you phrased that you wanted to work for someone that you really respected, right? So what do you think are those traits that you learned from your dad and your mom too, right? Just like, what are the things that first come to mind of what about that has kind of shaped your own leadership or what you learned from that?
Both of my parents my mother has passed, but both of them were people focused with a sense of responsibility to the people in their lives. And my dad is quite literally one of the smartest men I've ever met. He's just impressive and not overbearing about it. And my mother was similarly extremely intelligent and was really soft and kind. And the way they balanced each other, I kind of got the best of both worlds in that the way I hope I'm leading is through people focus and an attention to detail that not everybody gets. Kudos to my parents. Love them a lot.
I love it. That's beautiful.
I love that. And we can empathize with this, but then one has to really be able to carve out their own identity when working for a family business. And it's a daunting task. So how did you conceptualize this evolution from Stan's daughter to full-fledged Lillian Werbin?
I wish it was a dedicated path that I had taken.
Right?
If only I could tell you I had planned this.
Right?
I think, especially in family business, you want to honor what has come before you, but you really want to make it your own. But that includes all the people who came before you who you cannot change. And so it really was important to me to get to know everybody as individuals, get to know the business as intimately as I could, and see how those all married together before I inserted my own ideas and hopes and dreams for our future. I worked with an organization called the Small Business Development Center locally here. They're all over the US, but our local version helped me really hone in on the business aspects that I needed to learn, the financials and the operations, and like, how do you manage those things? But I really understood the people management from my mom, and she encouraged me to be myself while also inserting myself, not to be some contrived version of who I wanted to become, but to just be myself in those moments. And so truly, I'm a product of a lot of good mentorship, a lot of love from my parents, and a lot of honesty from my staff. I don't think I would be in the position I'm in without all of the influence from other people.
It's powerful.
I love how you put that, because I haven't really thought about it that way before, that I think the key to all that is just continuing to be in touch with who you are and then showing up as yourself every day. And I think we fall into this when we overthink the fact that we are Stan's daughter or Joe's daughter or whatever, right? Like just showing up every day as yourself, it organically happens that you are staying true to that and crafting your life and stuff. That's really beautifully put.
And people can trust who you are, which matters when you're in leadership.
Absolutely.
They have to know that your word is what you say it is, and that you're consistently authentic, which is one of Elderly's core values. I can't expect my staff to show up as themselves, who they are, if I'm not doing that. So it's a big deal for me that people can be who they are in the workplace.
Love it.
So working your way through every aspect of the business, how you did seems invaluable to being able to lead it. But you've also talked about how you're constantly needing to brush up your skills to stay informed as things are constantly changing. What are some of the most striking evolutions that you've seen in the retail business throughout your time at Elderly?
I mean, the trends are faster. Everything is faster. 11 years, and I feel like it's been double, if not triple that. in the terms of what I've learned about how our customers want to be marketed to, how the industry plays with one another, how the retail space evolves constantly, and you have to be able to keep up and adapt. The scene is painfully similar to how it was when my dad started the store, and also vastly different. And I think that balance is something that Elderly is particularly good at handling, but I think it also has to do, again, with the people that we employ and who have been part of our journey and those who we do business with.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a great segue too. And as we've been having these conversations, like we just talked to Jesse Osborne at Spicer's, and I don't shout out Jesse. I feel like these stores that just thrive, like yours, are ones that are that community hub, that are people focused and are part of what feels sustainable, closed loop ecosystem, I suppose, right, of music, where there is a hub, there is a space that is then, and there was that quote from your dad, right, that was like, I just want to get instruments into the hands of my pals, right? Like I just, this needs to be a role in all of this. And so like, It feels like something that's so intentional and so fabulously done. And that probably is such a huge part of it too.
You said it.
That's an interesting thing. Knowing community is so important. How has that aspect evolved? Like, how are you meeting the community differently in terms of like creating that space?
Well, rather than being just like a participant, I try to be as engaged as possible. I do festival organizing and I'm a sponsor at some of the festivals, and I have been known to be a nice roadie for some of my musician friends. It's just the kind of thing where, like, if I can put my hands in it to help elevate it, help lift it up, and help it continue, I want to be able to do that. And I don't necessarily think that's unique. I think I might be a little too focused on it sometimes, in the sense of like community is ultimately all I think about, and how important it is not just to stay relevant, but to be useful to the community. As a retailer, I have to stay relevant, of course, but it's how you maintain that relevancy that matters. I don't want to cheapen our brand or who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think remaining community focused is a really strong way to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Before we continue further, for those who might be unfamiliar with the customer that Elderly serves, can you tell us a little bit about what that community is? I know you are a banjo player yourself.
Yes. I'm a little banjo crazy, turns out. Wouldn't have told you that when I was a kid, but we specialize in fretted instruments, of course, and not everybody knows what those are, but we have always catered to like every musician, in the sense of if you're looking for a starter instrument, you can shop with us. If you're looking for a collectible, you can shop with us. If you're a professional musician or touring musician or regular gigger, we are capable and prefer to have a variety of customers, which frankly makes our business stronger, in that we aren't at the mercy of one group. We do have the ability to diversify and cater to multiple people. And I think that makes not only our community stronger, but what we offer is stronger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And helps probably people grow throughout those parts of it too. Like it makes it more accessible to move throughout those stages of engaging with music.
I used to say like Elderly can be there for the lifetime of the instrument and the player,
That's good.
If it's your starter instrument and then it's your upgrade and then you're gigging and then you're touring and then it's time to trade it in, we are capable of meeting those needs and those expectations from those musicians.
Good question, Nat. I'm glad you brought that up. You remember to ask those businessy things. Just like, tell me about your childhood. But that's beautiful. I mean, so actually with that, I'm going to play with a little bit of this. You brought up that you're banjo crazy, and I love that so much. And so just like to get into the instrument of it for a sec, I love how you talk about specifically how you feel connected to it and the love of it and stuff, right? So can you just walk us through that rabbit hole of like connecting with that, right? How you got curious about how that became your instrument.
Oh, it's many layers.
Give it to us.
So my dad co-founded Midwest Banjo Camp 20 some years ago. And I helped out in just like showing up and being probably in the way at that point. But
yeah,
I got to meet all these amazing players, and I got to fall in love with like the instrument itself because we had all these campers who were excited about it. And now I co-direct that camp. And so I'm even further involved in cultivating the love for the instrument.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also was a part of what was formerly known as the Banjo Collectors Gathering, which is now just the Banjo Gathering for all banjo enthusiasts, not just collectors. But I now co-run that with Christina Gaddy, author of Well of Souls. And that event is primarily, I think it's the only event focused on the history and kind of evolution of the banjo, the culture of the banjo.
That's cool.
And how it has come to be the instrument we now know. And kind of through those two avenues, I became a big fan of the banjo and a big fan of banjo people.
Yeah.
There's always like the banjo joke and, people kind of diminish it a little bit. And I find that, not to be too deep about it, but I find that my history prior to my birth as an African-American woman, we have the same history. Our ancestors were brought, and we have evolved into what is now a known thing. Certainly, I'm not as well known as the banjo. But,
you're well known in our hearts.
Oh, thank you. Warms my soul, trust me. But it really is the kind of thing where I feel connected to that instrument, not only because of its ancestry and my own, but because of how it's revered within the music communities.
Yeah.
I get to reestablish myself within the community whenever I want, basically, as first a retailer and then as a community organizer and as an event planner. And the banjo has had all of these different evolutions, gourd banjos, tack head banjos, open resonator, But ultimately, we have a shared history that I am still learning to embrace. And I think that helps me continue to love it in a way that might be different than other people.
Yeah.
So beautiful and powerful.
Profound. Yeah. As a symbol. And I was listening to one of your other interviews with Christina about this, that element that it is still evolving. It's like a symbol of so much. And it is like a living, breathing, evolving culture and instrument and thing. And like, what a beautiful thing to not freeze something in time in that and let it continue to evolve like a culture does and people do.
Precisely. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Doing it. This skill is called reflecting. And all I'm doing is taking what you said and summarizing it now that we're getting top of mind, everybody. But no, all from you. So you just started Sturdy Roots too. You started yet another business aspect.
I did.
To stay in business world for a moment, walk us through founding that when you were like, I think this needs to become its own thing. And that moment of like deciding to do that and then now what it is.
I was already doing it.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. It just needed to be named.
It needed to be named.
Yeah.
And I wanted it to have its own brand separate from Elderly because me as a human being has my own set of values and everybody who works at Elderly is an individual. And I can't put my values on them, even though I own the business. And so what I wanted was a business that could be simply my ideals, my values, and my work ethic wrapped in one. And so I had been festival organizing, a festival assistant, I had been emceeing, and I thought I should probably keep track of all of this.
Yes. That is very
I know that feeling.
End of the year would come and I'd go, what did I do in January?
Yeah.
So
it's a lot of spreadsheets.
It's a lot of spreadsheets and a lot of contracts. Ultimately, Sturdy Roots was born. Sturdy because I like to breathe some stability into other events and other organizations when I can. And not only for roots music, but because I think to grow anything, you have to have solid roots and be able to grow from there. And so outside of event planning with Sturdy Roots and kind of working in various events, I can do consulting with that and actually help other organizations and other businesses stabilize themselves. And that's been really rewarding as a side hustle.
Yeah.
Mine just happens to be more community building, and I'm pretty lucky and grateful for that.
That's amazing.
So to turn that then to advocacy and all these other projects that wrap up into Sturdy Roots, we both feel like you model such a fantastic way of like interweaving one's whole person into their advocacy. And it seems like letting that guide where you put your advocacy energy and all of these things. And so whether it is Rhapsody Project or like Bluegrass Pride, all these things, was that intentional? Or were you just kind of following the curiosities of like where I want to feel connected here? How did that go? Because I feel like it's such a perfect model for like connecting all the dots into one's whole identity.
It's another thing where I wish I had a blueprint that I was following, but ultimately I have friends in the industry who would be like, hey, you have expertise in this. Could you help me with this?
Yeah, just found you.
I have an opening on this board. Would you like to be a part? And from there, that work got recognized and people would ask me to be on their board. And I have a terrible time of saying no.
And here we are.
So here we are. I run 5 organizations. I sit on 6 or 7 boards, some local, some national. And my friends are reminding me every day to like slow down. You're doing too much. Yeah. But I would like to do too much while I can.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is never promised. I'm painfully aware of that. And I do try my best to make the most of every day and every moment. And if that means I'm juggling a couple different projects at a time, I don't mind.
Yeah. Well, that's your own definition of too much. Like if this feels like the amount that you have to just, pour into these things that you love, like you just have a lot to give, that seems. So like can't dim that if it's still flowing,
Yeah. Yeah. It feels good to give back and, I could spend my time building miniatures, but I'll find time to do all that stuff. My fun things.
I just finished a miniature.
What kind?
It's a little music room.
I'm doing Lily's porch.
Oh my gosh.
I'm obsessed with building. I love little stuff.
Oh yeah.
How did you guys find this?
Like there's a whole movement.
I love this. So just get into it for a second.
So my aunt and my cousin is really into it. And over the holidays, she was gifted another one. And I looked at it and I was like, excuse me, what is this?
Yeah.
You did show me this. I was like, oh, it's fun. Wow. Okay. So Lillian, what is yours again? Remind me, you said?
Yeah, it's Lily's porch. It's just a little kit that I'm making and it has a little guitar in it and plants, which is something I'm into. And I've been building it for way longer than I should admit because I do too much and I don't give myself time to do my hobbies. But I have just created the foundation and the walls for the porch. And so I should be done any day now. Any day now. But I love minis so much. I have friends who like send me little banjos and little guitars.
Oh, I see it.
So I have all sorts of small things.
I love it.
It's always been a thing of mine that I like.
Yeah. I'm here for that. A good moment to remind everybody that does a lot, that also has hobbies they love. It's okay if it takes like 15 times longer than other people say it should. I have like a almost halfway finished scarf I'm knitting. And it should be done. And it won't be for a long time. And it's,
it's about the journey.
Little bit by bit.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
the
always
decompression.
about the journey.
It's something to do with our hands that is not related to our work.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I mean, it's important, especially with all of the projects that I'm working on at any given time, even if I'm spending 15 minutes like building this mini recording set. Or I'm curling paper with little scissors. It's the kind of thing where like that 15 minutes is a complete reset that I'm then able to give back. And it's been really beneficial for me to do that. I also like golfing. And so that's my other reset is getting outside and smacking balls across the green.
And being in a beautiful setting like that too, right?
It's peaceful in the same way music has been for me. And most of the music that I interact with is so collaborative and so people driven that it's nice to have hobbies that aren't.
What a good differentiator there. I love that.
Yeah.
I definitely am constantly chasing the balance of life and whatever this crazy ride is.
Well, for a final thought on that, this is so lovely. Like, it makes me think too, when one is so busy It almost makes it so that every aspect of your time or every bit of your time, and I'm feeling this right now, right? In grad school, like every bit of it has to be so intentional. So like you are carving those 15 minutes and you're grateful for every minute that you are
Absolutely
curling a piece of paper. Like it's kind of a gift to be in these kind of sprint modes of life or these marathon times, right? Because like you have to be so solid with where everything is laid out, where in other times you could waste time. And this way we don't waste any of it when it's such a commodity.
It is such a commodity. And, like people say like, oh, there's not enough hours in the day. Like, absolutely. Especially when it's like community driven or music driven. I find that like musicians are so intentional when they're playing. You have to be, or you don't sound good.
Yes.
But like in the moment, the body is entirely involved. And so if I'm using my time wisely, I would hope that my entire being is involved in a way that's pushing me forward or pushing my cohorts forward or the business or, whatever it may be. You're right that it's that intentional use of time that I think makes life a little more valuable.
Love that. One other thought on this is when you hear people talk about how they've made it in their career and they are like, you just grind and you grind and you grind and you grind. Yeah, you do. And also I feel like really effective leadership is knowing when you need to take that step back and when you need to carve out that time and set an example for the other people that you're leading around you. Because if you're not setting that example,
how would they follow it?
Exactly.
Yep. I'm pretty big on people taking the time they need. At least I hope that that's my way of leadership, is making sure that people are taking the time they need. Because I'm useless if I haven't taken the time I need, frankly. We mentioned chaos before we started recording. And frankly, when you haven't taken the time to rejuvenate and to take care of oneself, there isn't a whole lot you can do except like let the chaos reign.
Surrender.
Yeah. And that is harder to regain your time back. I am a culprit of that in letting chaos reign. But like I said, I do try to take the time that I need to rejuvenate so that I can continue the work that I'm doing.
Amazing. What a lovely thread that we didn't, know we drew down. But someone's listening to this and probably really needed to hear that. So that makes me really happy. I mean, we all do. We're all doing too much. Well, and so with that, for the advocacy stuff, bring it back for a second. Like there's so much, so we can't probably talk about all of it. But I guess what is one project or initiative or win that you've had for any of these that immediately comes to mind that you're like super proud of and would want to share and make sure people know about?
Oh,
in the moment, which one feels good to talk about? There's so many.
There are so many. I mean, with Bluegrass Pride, we're advocating for marginalized musicians in the LGBT world. With Rhapsody Project, we're making sure that the history and the musicianship is passed down accurately and that, younger folks in Seattle specifically have an outlet. I sat on Decolonizing the Music Room, which is exactly as the title says. And, that would be the work that I'm most proud of, in the sense of those are the communities that I think need the most support. But I'm also extremely proud to be a board member of the National Association of Music Merchants. I'm extremely proud to be on the International Bluegrass Music Association's foundation board. I find that if my identity is where I can support my own identity in community versions, I like to do that work. And, like I said, as a Black woman, as a retailer, as a community supporter, as an audience member, I wear many hats and many identities that other people share, of course. And when my work intersects there and supports not only myself, but other people, I feel like it's a worthy use of time.
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of where my advocacy comes from, is seeing myself reflected in the communities around me and giving back there.
And that it's so reciprocal in that way, too. Like it's a relationship with community, too. You aren't just like pouring in, like you are being able to engage with community and feel part of it. And
absolutely,
it feeds you too as you give when it's that intentional.
absolutely. It's a two-way street. I mean, the best things are.
And that's how it stays sustainable, I guess, too, right? That's how the energy keeps flowing, I guess.
Absolutely.
Because otherwise it'd drain you out.
It really is. The best things are two-way streets. The best things are collaborative, and you're giving as much as you're taking, if not more giving than taking.
Yes.
But it's cyclical. What you can produce for those around you does come back, and could take years, could take weeks, could take a lifetime. But there are seeds that I'm planting now that won't come up in my lifetime. And I'm okay with that, and I think being okay with that is half the battle of doing good work.
I want to just dive a little deeper into that. Are there any reflections that, if you're comfortable, that you can share on how it's been to push for progress in a really tradition-oriented setting?
Yeah. Genre, industry, all of it. It's so set in its ways.
It is set. I said earlier, this industry that we play in has not changed and changed a lot.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting that.
And, I think because I am Stan's daughter, I got an easier in than maybe I would have otherwise. But ultimately, my journey has been well accepted and well received. I rarely have been othered outside of the obvious, but I think my contributions to the industry have been the focus rather than my identity or what I might represent. And I think that allows me to represent and open the door for more people. And so it's a delicate dance, I think, with all of it. But this is a white male-dominated industry, and I am neither of those things. I think it's probably refreshing for some people and interesting for others, but I haven't had a lot of people push back on my entering this industry or being a part of the community. And I don't think many people who look like me would have the same opinion. So thanks, Dad.
Yeah. Well, and what an extra weight of responsibility for you too, right? I feel like that's such the thing, to carry that on your shoulders too. It's a lot. So with that too, that's one thing I asked you. How have you taken care of yourself through all that? Because that's so much extra work that you're doing kind of behind the scenes internally to process all that, to show up in certain ways, right? For someone listening that is tackling, whatever it is in their life that they're having to do that extra work, how have you cared for yourself?
I have a great therapist.
Yeah.
We'll start there. If you think you don't need it, you might. But also, I have a great support system. I have amazing friends all over the world that I've met through the music community, and I rely on their feedback. They'll listen to this podcast, and I will be asking them, how did it go? And what do I need to reflect on? What do I need to update in terms of my thinking? And I think my growth, again, is I owe kudos to my friends and my family who have seen me through all of the struggle and balancing and work that I've been doing. I'm quite reliant on other people to feel confident about the work I do. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing, but it is how I am. And knowing thyself is half the battle. And so there's a sense of not necessarily a mirror, but a reflection pool. And people can wade into those ripples and kind of help me evolve into a better person than I was yesterday, every day.
That's beautiful.
That's it, everyone. That's the episode.
I know.
I'm kidding.
So beautiful. And it would only be a problem, I think, right? Like you said, you know if it's a good thing, if you weren't getting it back. But that's a healthy give and take. That is beautiful collectivism right there. That's everybody supporting each other.
Oh, yeah.
Again, community.
Community. And I mean, specifically, an instance comes to mind. I was at a gathering where we were creating guidelines for traditional music communities that would help include more people, and those guidelines can be found online. But a close friend of mine who I've worked for in the past, every year I work for her, and we were talking about some of these guidelines and how to phrase them. and how they would be received. And we had this really tough moment where we could not communicate. And we kind of both took a step back and came back together and just, I think it was me, I expressed that like, I don't want to fight with you. And so I'm unwilling to do so. And she said, no, it's really important that we like fight through this so that we understand one another. And I hadn't had that feedback yet. This is 8 years ago. And it mattered that I reflected on how I communicated through tough conversation. And I wouldn't necessarily have gotten there. Maybe I would have, but at that point, I hadn't gotten there. I was ready to just give up the fight rather than fight with someone I love. And her point was that to continue to love her, I needed to be able to have that argument. So it's that kind of forced growth. It sounds painful, but I mean, I guess it is kind of painful. The best growth is, I think, in that the hardest lessons I've learned are the ones that stuck. And I'm really grateful to my friends who don't yes ma'am me and who really ask me to take a hard look at myself and how I communicate and interact with everyone so that I can show up and be the best version of myself that I am.
Totally. That's so important. Honest community, too. People that help you be your best.
So for someone just starting out on their leadership journey, considering board service, this is a very selfish question. Also getting involved in too many things. Why do you feel it's an important way to get involved?
Ooh, that's a tough question. That's actually a really tough question. Let me start by saying, if you don't have passion for what the board is supposed to have passion for, do not join a board. If you don't have the time to give a board or the input, or boards ask, every board has a different need from their members.
Absolutely.
And there are passive boards, there are active boards, there are working boards, volunteer boards. Know thyself. Know what you're willing to give and what they're looking for before you get involved, because you could be holding that community back accidentally. I would also say I only join boards that are music focused, and I'm very strict on that. I've been asked to join all sorts of things that, like, I would love to do that work. I would love to be helpful, but it is not in my orbit of expertise. And so I wouldn't be as effective there as I am on the boards that I'm on. For those starting out, I think understanding how you interact with other people, how you want to interact with community, and what ultimately the goal is. For all my love of community, I'm still a retailer. And so a lot of the community work that I do does harken back to elderly, because that is my main focus and always will be. And so knowing the goal or the main focus that you're trying to support goes a long way in kind of guiding the other work that you could be doing.
Love that. Know thyself. Oh my gosh. Know thyself.
Yeah. Have the foundation to go from. I love that.
Yeah.
And as we are gearing towards the end of this episode, the three of us on this call are all young professionals.
It's true.
And it got us thinking, like, you're so incredibly accomplished already. Like, you're doing the thing. Is there anything that you would go back and tell yourself on day one at Elderly?
So many things. I literally didn't dream of where I am right now. I had very little expectations of myself when I was an 18-year-old, young 20-something. And I guess I would have told myself that, like, it does, in fact, get better. I know that's a cliche thing to say, but...
For a reason. We all need to hear it a lot.
Yeah. I never knew I would have an impact on anyone, let alone a community of people, let alone multiple communities of people. I will try not to get choked up about it because I didn't think much of myself, and it was hard to see myself as somebody who could do this type of work. So, like, I would have told my younger self that there was a place for me, and to just kind of keep day by day, moment by moment, it all works out.
Beautiful. Yeah, sit with that for a second. Love
I know.
that. On like a lighter note of that, how the heck do you do it? Oh, we've talked about this a little bit, but the logistics of it, like, is there a system that you have or like how you prioritize like your time in that highest level? Like what comes to mind of what's worked for you to do all of the things that have made you so successful at the young professional age?
It's fairly structured and unstructured. Every week I have the same meetings that I go to. And every week there are optional meetings for me to go to. So I always meet with my managers, my leadership team. Those are scheduled. They run like clockwork. And then there are department meetings that I can pop into should I need to, or if I need to know what's happening, what's been changed.
Yeah.
You know, like I live by the calendar. And so everything is color coordinated. So elderly is a certain color, sturdy roots is a certain color, elderly adjacent is a certain color, and then personal is a certain color. And so I can look at the calendar. I can look at a week and immediately know how heavy one is to the other. If my whole calendar is lavender, I have forgotten to schedule a good amount of work and need to rebalance that. And similarly, if the whole calendar is maroon, then I haven't thought to give myself time for myself. And so it's being able to give yourself quick triggers on balancing how are you showing up for other people. So in my case, I have staff who need me to be available when they need me to be available, not when it's good for me. And so having ways for them to communicate with me. I have Slack. Everybody has my cell phone number, email, various emails. And then recently, within the last 2 years, I promoted Michael Earlywine to president of Elderly. And when I'm not here, when I'm not available, there is somebody who has my ear at all times who is. And I think that's gone a long way in terms of organizing the elderly side of things. But again, it's the quick trigger of knowing, okay, how much time have I dedicated to my main focus? How much time have I dedicated to this side hustle? How much time have I dedicated to me? And then having a plethora of spreadsheets to keep it all together, different notebooks, of course, lots of to-do lists that get turned into other to-do lists that get turned into other to-do lists. You know, I think everybody works differently using the tools that technology has come up with, Asana and Slack and all these cool Trellos, you know, like there are all these different tools that people can use. And I think it's worth trying a bunch of them to see what really works for you. So that's how I stay organized. And a lot of coffee.
Always. Last question, and I know that we already kind of talked about this. So aside from miniatures and aside from golf and aside from music, is there anything else outside of music that brings you joy?
I love connecting with people. I used to accuse my mother of being too friendly, like when I was a kid. Like, why are you talking to this person in the grocery store? Like, why are we telling them our whole lives? But now I find that type of interaction so refreshing. And it's the little moments that really matter. You know, somebody dropping a bag and somebody else picking it up. I went bowling yesterday and there was this little girl who was doing great. She had her bumpers and she had her the slide for the balls.
Yeah.
And afterwards I saw her and I said, well done. You were doing great out there. And her mother thanked me for it. And it's just the little things. I live for moments like that where strangers don't have to become friends, but in the moment, why not have one extra friend in the mix? So I like those moments.
Well, thank you for sharing so much of yourself with us too today. Thank you. It was just so beautiful, all of the wisdom you've shared, truly. So
thank you.
We're just so grateful.
I appreciate you giving me a platform to share.
Yeah. And thank you just for everything that you do for the music industry, what you advocate for, how you lead. We are in a really great spot knowing that you're at the helm with us all. So thank you.
Thank you. That's really sweet. I really appreciate that.
We'll keep sending you some gumption to keep going too. You'll have two just like cheerleaders.
Thank you, Lillian. We are so grateful too.
I appreciate you both.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Revoicing the Future. You can subscribe to the podcast on all major streaming platforms or visit our website. Be sure to follow us on social media to stay up to date on all things Women of NAMM. This episode was co-produced and edited by Natalie Morrison, Stephanie Lamond, and Julia Olsen. Together, we can help shape the future of our industry, one interval at a time. See you next time.